CS179 Packet Tracer Lab 2.9.1. In this lab, we'll be completing basic device configuration to allow end devices to communicate to each other through switches. We'll be configuring the switches through the computers using an emulation terminal. We'll go ahead and we'll begin by accessing the first switch here, in this case on my system called ASW-1. It'll likely be different on yours. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to open up the computer, and then I'm going to go to the desktop tab and I'm going to click on terminal, and then I'll click on OK. And you'll notice that the terminal itself doesn't show anything because we do not have the console cable connected between these two. Configuring these via a terminal, you cannot use the LAN Ethernet cable to connect to these. You have to use the console cable. So to place a console cable, come down to the connections, and then choose this blue line, come up to the computer, click on it, choose the RS-232 serial interface, and then on the switch, click on it, and then choose the console interface. Let's go back to the computer itself. Now we can go back to terminal, open the terminal, and you can see now that we have some action here. I'll scroll to the bottom, and it says press return to get started, and now we are at the switches interface. We'll first name the switches. Make sure I'm on the right switch here. So we're going to name this switch ASW-1. It's currently named switch, and you can see that by the identifier here in the command line. So what I want to do is get to the place where I can make a change to this. So I need to get to the configuration level. So first I have to get to the enhanced level. So I do the enable command. Next I do the configuration terminal command. Except I should say configure terminal, not configuration terminal. So the command I need to use here is host name. So I'll type host name and then the name of the device, which is ASW-1. Press enter. And you'll notice that the name here changed to the new name that I entered. Right. So at this point, you can pause and you can click the check result here if you want to make sure that you're on the right path. So I'll plus that, and then I'll go to assessment items. And you'll notice here in the list under host name, it's got a green check mark indicating that I have that correct. So I can go ahead and I can close this and go back to our configuration level. Okay, next we want to set a password for our lines. So we need to go back into the terminal here. I'm at the configuration level, so let's go ahead and we're going to set our console line first. So to get to that, I have to use the word line, and then console. In this case, console 0 is the only one we have, so I'll press enter. We want to set a password, so I'll type enable password, and the password is going to be R4XE3. I realize I made a mistake here. I shouldn't have used the word enable there. So we instead, let's go back into that. And I should have just used the word password. let's go back to that. Re-enter the password. Okay, there we go. So once we've entered the password, we have to tell the line to use that password. So we'll use the command login. So now we have the password set. So let's go ahead and check our results. And you should notice that the line console password now is correctly configured. So let's go back here and go over to the VTY lines. While we're here, actually, let's just go ahead and do the secret password. We'll do that here in a moment. Let's do the VTY lines. So let's just exit out of this level. And let's go to the VTY lines, 0 through 15, and do the same thing. Do a password R4XE3. Log in. Let's step back and then let's do the secret password here with the enable command. So we'll enable secret C4AJA. And let's go back to check results. Make sure we're on the right area here. Let's see, I made a mistake with the secret. So let's see, so the VTY lines, did I get that correct? Let's see, maybe I entered the name wrong, password wrong. So let's go back and look. I did, so let's fix that. Uppercase C or AJA. Now we'll do the check results. Alright, so we've done that. So let's go ahead to the next step here. It says encrypt all clear text passwords. So at this point, we want to do a new command here. Now I'm going to do something here. I'm going to use the question mark command, and this allows us to look at all of the available commands. It'll first give you a list in a page. If you get to the end of the page, you can press the space bar, and it will continue and show you the rest of the commands that are available at this level. And this particular one, to enable the encryption, is not as straightforward as you would hopefully think. It's actually under this command called service. So we're going to go to the service command. I'll do the question mark. And there's this one called password encryption. Now I'm going to start typing pass here. You don't need to type the entire name of the command out. You can actually type part of it and then press the tab key and it will complete it for you. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and press enter, and this will complete our encryption. We'll next do the message of the day. In this case, it's the banner command, and then we need to enter the message we want to put in. The message itself needs to be surrounded by a single character that is not used within the message. I typically just use a quotation mark, so I'm just going to say this is for use only, and press enter. So I missed something here. So what did I miss? So let's go back to the banner command, and I'll do the question mark again here. I got to tell it what kind of banner. In this particular device, there's only one type of banner. It's the month of day banner. So I have to type that command first before entering the banner message. Alright, so we're ended that. Now let's do the addressing for the devices. So for this, I'm going to need to go back to the top and see what we have here. So for this device, we need to set up the virtual LAN with an IP address. Let's go back to that. So I need to go to the virtual LAN interface, so I'm going to type interface VLAN, and the VLAN number, in this case 1. Then I have to do the IP address, so I'll type IP address, the IP address in this case, and then the subnet mask, which is 255.255.255.0, and press enter. Alright, so at this case, let's go back. We've configured the addressing for this particular device. Let's just go back to check results, see where we're at. Alright, so we have everything configured. We have a port status problem. And then there's a startup config problem, which we'll get to in just a moment. The port status here is incorrect because the VLAN itself is not enabled. So if I go back to the terminal here, and I can show you this by exiting out of our configuration level and then do a show running config to show us what our configuration looks like. And I'm going to scroll down it here until I get to the virtual LAN. You notice that the IP address is there that we entered earlier, but it has the word shutdown, which means that this interface is not active. So we want to make it active. I press the escape key there to exit the running config output. So now I'm going to have to go back to the configuration level. I'm going to have to go back to the interface VLAN 1. I'm going to have to use a command known as no. It's a negation command. And then the command shutdown. So I'm telling it to not shut down, or in this case, become enabled. And press enter. This will turn on that interface. And if we go back to check results, you'll notice that the port status is correct now. So the last one here is the startup config. And what is meant here is that we need to save it. So it says save your configurations. So here we're going to exit out of the configuration level because we're not configuring anything. So what we're going to do here is use the copy command. If I do a question mark here, you notice it'll say I want to copy a certain type of configuration, in this case the startup. So we'll say startup dash config, a question mark again, and then this is where do I want to copy it to. In this case I want to copy it to, actually I'm doing this backwards, it should say the running config, the one that is running on the device. I want to copy it to the startup dash config. And it'll ask me, do I want to overwrite that? And I'm going to say yes. Press enter. Let's see. Oh, I didn't want to say yes there. I actually just wanted to say that yes, use startup config as the name of the file. So I just press enter because that was the default name. Back to check results once again. And you'll notice now that everything under that switch has been configured correctly. Alright, so the last thing that we need to do here for this side is to go to the computer. Again, I'm going to close the terminal. And then I'm going to go to the IP configuration. And let's go to the user 1 computer. So we'll set it to the 10.10.10.4 2.0 subnet, and that should complete all of the pieces here for this side. So if you finish that particular piece here, which we have there, we can go over to connectivity tests, and it will tell us that we are having a successful test between the user 1 and the switch itself. The other ones of these are not successful because they are not configured yet. So in order to finish those up, we'd need to finish the commands on this side as well. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that, but I am not going to record it. I'm just going to finish those, and I'll come back and I'll show you what the tests will look like at the end. So I'm going to pause the video. Okay, I've configured all of the remaining items. So now if I go to check results, I'll have all of the assessment items completed. We go to the connectivity test, you'll notice that all of the test conditions are successful. Alright, so hopefully this helps in completing this lab.